Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for one of the most important, pivotal, narrative-driven and exciting stages of this year, even though it is indeed a time trial. Stage 4 of the Critérium du Dauphiné, overreaction time only for this one. This episode is brought to you by Morton. A word on them in a second. So great to see all of you getting on board with them earlier this week. But this TT from Champs-sur-Rhône to Saint-Péray, 17 kilometers long. We have 6 kilometers of flat, and they begin a climb that is the Val d'Enfer. I'm calling it the Hell Climb because this is a steep climb. They use it in the Fort Ardèche or Fondrome Classic, beautiful races in February on opening weekend, and they do it reverse this direction. Fast descent, patchy road surface, and then it is, what was I saying? Oh yeah, then it's a false flat descent like downhill and flat finish. Not technical at all. Headwind. The Scud was the deserved favourite, Benji.
Yeah, for sure. Remco Evenepoel is the favourite for this, especially because straight roads, not that much technical stuff. Then again, his victory in was it the Paris ITT that was also quite technical in places where he was surprisingly, well, pretty sure he won it. So I just wanted to add on top of that. The climb here was maybe steeper than I expected yesterday, but it's not a crazy climb either. So you would expect Remco's benefit on the flat and towards the end of the time trial also to benefit over the other riders in this time trial. And we look at the likes of Jonas Vingegaard, the likes of Tadej Pogacar, and is it weird that those were the only 3 riders that I saw as potential winners for this stage? I didn't really see the non-GC riders as people with a chance for the stage. I saw Remco as the favorite. I expected Pogacar to be the second GC rider in the stage results and Vingegaard the third one. That was the order I expected for this time trial, and that's 3 GC riders. Is there something there where we are like, okay, it's gonna be the GC riders? It's because the other purists are not here, no?
Yeah, there's no Stefan Kung, no Wout van Aert, no Filippo Ganna, no Joshua Tarling. Although, to be honest, this climb's so steep, Benji, they don't have a chance against Remco, and probably they wouldn't have a chance against mid-season shape Pogacar and Vingegaard. I mean, maybe when they're peaking for a World Championships event at the end of September, it's different, but here, yeah, I really don't see anyone beating Remco. I mean, Remco, no one can beat him in top shape on flat courses. He won Worlds and Olympics on flat courses, so I think Remco is in top shape. He is in top shape here, and we can have question marks about Remco's climbing, and when I mean question marks, I mean versus Pog and Jonas. I don't mean like the people back in 2021 who said he literally can't climb. But even when Remco's not like climbing perfectly, if he's in good shape, he can TT like a monster. And that's what I expected today. And before the stage... Oh, sorry, go on.
Because the run-in towards this time trial and towards the Dauphiné in general is that Remco said he was, I'm at Tour de France race weight of last year basically already. I'm maybe at that level already. That's what his confidence going into this week was. When it comes to Vingegaard, he came out here and said, I'm a new person. We said it before the first stage of this Dauphiné. So we then saw a spicy attack, sharp as a knife in that first stage of the Dauphiné. Pogacar won the first stage of the Dauphiné, had a bit of trouble closing that attack of Vingegaard, in my opinion. And we come to this time trial, and because of all the stuff that's happened and the way Remco came out saying, okay, I'm feeling good, etc. like that, I expected Remco to be the favorite for this. That's how I went into this time trial. But there was a man in yellow, Javier Romo. Could he keep that yellow jersey
stop
towards
calling him
Remco?
Javier Romo. Is this a gimmick or what? Is he doing a bit?
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Ivan Romeo, by the way, I mean, he speaks...
He's good enough to deserve his own name.
He speaks incredible English. Like, he's... where did he come from before this? He was on Hagen's Berman for a year.
Yeah.
And he sounds very well educated. I like Ivan Romeo. Movistar got him locked up till 2028. I think it's a good job they did that earlier. Other teams would have come a knocking. So, Romeo, we thought he could keep yellow because he is, indeed, should be a good time trial rider. Lipovitz is not a shabby TT rider either. And on the punchy hills in Paris-Nice, he looked really, really good. Bora's TTs in the start of the year, Bora's TTs were really bad. I mean, we're doing a very small sample size, and they've progressively gotten better to the point where their most recent World Tour TT before this, like Roglic in the Giro was excellent. Before that, it looks like Bora's TTs are improving, and so Lipowitz could go well. And I can't remember any other news. Pre-stage, Romain Bardet's final TT.
Yep. Not his favorite discipline.
No.
But overall, I was looking forward to this time trial because it's the first indication of a GC stage. Yes, stage 1 became a GC stage, but at the end of the day, it wasn't a major effect. This one was going to have differences in GC, and we were going to see that. And then the first people started rolling off the start line. And it's the riders that aren't necessarily high up in GC. We see Tobias Foss doing a solid time trial. We see quite a few riders coming near Tobias Foss, Thibaut Gernalek and so forth, relatively in the neighborhood. Before we get to the GC riders, there are a few riders that I do want to mention. Jorgensen, do we consider that a GC rider for this Dauphiné?
I mean, yeah, he's top 10 in the Tour last year, and he lost a boatload of time in the Galibier stage when he crashed the day before, when he and Van Aert had a silly feed zone crash, and then in the third week they did. It was a silly crash, and then in the it was like a pantomime last year with Visma. It was like,
what's a pantomime?
Like a kids play show, like theatrical production where they just kept falling over in like random moments. But then in the third week, he was top 5 climber, more or less, in the race, around Landa's level, maybe a bit better actually. So he's a legitimate GC option. GC
especially
Cruz, is he back?
For the Dauphiné.
Yeah, the Dauphiné came second last year, so. But that wasn't a Pogacar Remco Dauphiné. That was a Roglic having a wobble, Carlos Rodriguez Dauphiné, sort of. But before we get into the results of this TT, time trials are brutal. You're right on the edge, fighting to hold. I did a threshold effort actually myself today. Toby's not very happy with me up the Goma climb behind my house. There's no room for error. That's where Morton's bicarb system comes in. You'll have seen so many of the GC riders or TT riders preparing with Morton bicarb before these important time trials. It's a new way to take sodium bicarbonate, which is a proven performance booster. But the problem was previously that whenever you took it, you had gut issues that basically made it nearly unusable. Morton fixed that. They encapsulate the bicarb to deliver it effectively so you can buffer more lactic acid, sustain more power, and have none of the gastrointestinal issues. And yeah, if you have a keen eye when they're doing the camera work around the warm-up zone or around the bus area 30 minutes to an hour before a TT, you can see them taking Morton bicarb at a lot of the World Tour teams. So whether you're racing a TT, doing hill climbs, or just chasing a new power PB on your local segment, you don't need to be doing a World Tour TT to benefit from it. You can get 20% off your first order at Morton with the code LRMorton2025 at morton.com. You can hit the link in the show notes and try out their bicarb system. Okay, do you want to get into the results, Benji, or how do you want to do it?
I think so, except Paul Sechat I want to mention, or actually, I've been calling him Paul Sechat for the last year. It's actually Paul Sexas. So that's his actual pronunciation, the French pronunciation of his name. So let's respect that. That man had a good time trial today.
Saying Seixas.
You're saying Seixas. Why?
It's just the Portuguese way. Someone said that I got it right.
He's not Portuguese!
Okay, but this is an interesting one. I need to ask Matteo about this. Is it wrong if you call Matteo Jorgensen or Jorgensen?
You tried to name him Jorgensen.
Because it's been Americanized, but it originally was a Scandinavian name.
Well, yeah. I can call you Patrick.
You call me Porich. Call me Porich. My parents were going to call me that, but then they decided to be too difficult. You want to know what my middle name and my christening name, or my confirmation name is, but you can call me Porich if you want. You know
I have no clue what that means.
Do you know how many Porich bros there are? There's a lot.
I really don't know.
There's a lot of Patrick bros. It's the Gaelic word for Patrick. There's a lot of them.
Okay. Time trial results. Let's jump into that for a second here.
On Paul Seixas though. This poor bastard doing
Sex
the best.
ass!
Yeah, no, I'm not saying sex ass for 15 years, Benji. I'm not saying that for 15 years calling him that. It's Paul Sechas. He seriously, the poor guy is doing the TT of his life. He's the new French GC hope, and instead they showed 20 minutes of Romain Bardet riding around the TT and the base bar extensions, like refusing to finish the TT. And I know it's his final Dauphiné, okay, but I was like, Lenny Martinez is on course. The decathlon Paul was on course, and he got no TV time. I was like, he's the big great hope.
Yeah, big great hope, and we've got some news that we got to talk about at some point in the weekly show as well, because their sponsor AG2R is dipping out and being replaced by L'Oreal.
I mean, apparently it might be fake news according to some other French press and Decathlon, but they might not have concluded the deal yet, and it's leaked.
Okay.
And they don't want to spoil the announcement. Listen, I got
Telegram brought that out, by the way.
Okay. I got a few grey hairs coming in, so L'Oreal, you know, take it. He did a great time, really, really good time. We also saw before him, did you mention Cavagna, Benji?
I did not mention Cavagna.
He actually did a good
time. He had a time trial. That was pretty solid. And he actually finishes 7th in this stage. So how about we go to the actual results now? Remco Evenepoel. That's pretty solid in this time trial.
Evenepoel, the Scud missile. They're claiming it's their 1,000th victory. Quick-step win. Remco wins. He dedicates it to Lefebvre. And this was dominant... Pardon? It's not their 1,000th?
It's not their 1,000th victory.
Oh, I mean, who's counting? Let them have it. Remco, this counts as 3 victories. It's a Tour de France victory, the Dauphiné victory, and the TT victory. So Remco wins the TT comfortably. You could see before the climb, he was locked into aero position, and it didn't even look like he was trying. It literally looked like he was on 5 rate of perceived exertion, and I was like, he's going to smash the rest of this because he's obviously still going fast. And the headwind TT, it's a headwind TT. So we're not engineers, but I think the more aero you are on the flat, the better a headwind is because the CDA matters relatively more.
This is also one of those time trials where when it comes to the broadcast, we only had the intermediate sprints to really base it off. We didn't have comparisons between certain riders throughout the course that much in this time trial, if at all. So we were kind of guessing how Remco was doing versus Pogacar versus Vingegaard on the climb towards that first time check. And there was this moment, this one corner at the start of the climb, about 7 kilometers in, where I checked the time at the left bottom for Remco and it said about 8 minutes 40, and Pogacar passes the same corner and he's like 9 minutes 10 or so at that same point. I was like, Remco before the climb even started in this time trial had around 30 seconds on Tadej Pogacar. Vingegaard was doing a lot better than Pogacar, to be clear, but worse than Remco Evenepoel, which I'd expect Vingegaard to be worse than Evenepoel, but it's really Pogacar that's underperforming here, right? Maybe Vingegaard overperforming compared to expectations as well, but mostly Pogacar underperforming.
I think Vingegaard's TT is where it needs to be if he's in 2023 shape. I mean, Vingegaard's normally comes to the Dauphiné in good shape. There is a nasty hill in this. I think if this was completely flat for 20 Ks and he's that close, I would have been surprised. But with that hill, he can make up time. Pogacar, there's no way. I mean, none of us expected Jorgensen to beat Pogacar. None of us expected Pogacar to finish only 8 seconds ahead of Lipovitz. Yep. I mean, realistically, none of us expected that. And we'll go into maybe a broader discussion in a second. But that's a bad time for him by his standards. Yeah, Jorgensen 3rd on 37 seconds, Lipovitz 56 seconds, Van der Poel 101. Van der Poel clearly tried. Like, that's a good TT. For a guy that probably this is the first time he saw a time trial bike in the last 6 months, that is a cracking TT from Van der Poel. The problem is there's some pretty good time trial riders ahead of him. Remy Cavagna 106, Dunbar 109, Foss 109, Sechas 111. That's the main guys. Romeo, who's in the yellow jersey, 125. He lost more time than I expected. I thought he'd lose a minute, so he actually does lose the GC lead. But otherwise, Santi 137, Carlos Rodriguez 138, Sheffield 133. I think he'll be disappointed with that. Tullet 149. That's a lot of time lost.
Yeah.
Koos 157. These are big gaps. So there's sort of these climbing rouleur time trial guys filling up the top 20, like a Gernalek, a Fisher Black, an Armirail. But there's big gaps between these GC guys on a mere 17k TT.
And if we then look at the climbing segment itself, and we look at the GC riders there, whether it's Evenepoel, Vingegaard, Pogacar, it's kind of similar towards the gaps at the finish, in the sense that those gaps at the intermediate point just expanded to the finish line. So it's not like we have like, okay, this one rider did a fantastic first half of the time trial compared to the second half. It's the gaps just expanded between those three main GC riders. That being said, I would have loved if, for example, we had an overview whether which of the GC riders had the fastest climb. Because we can talk about Jonas Vingegaard, for example, and Remco Evenepoel having that great first time check, but we don't know what their actual climbing time was, right?
Yeah, we don't. It's really annoying, to be honest, because, yeah, either at the base of the climb or the top of the climb. I mean, in the Tour de France TT last year, they had it at the top of the Col d'Ez, I think. But yeah, it's really impossible to know. My assumption is Remco killed everybody on the flat and held Jonas somewhat level on the hill, maybe lost 5-7 seconds on the hill, but otherwise put a boatload of time, 30 seconds, then back into him on the flatter sections would be my assumption. Pogacar, Benji, it seems like he was not... Like on the climb, he looked like Comblow to me. Like it's easy to say in hindsight because sometimes Pogacar looks like he's doing it easy and then you see the intermediate and he's killing everybody, but he was drinking, his hands were moving, he didn't look locked in.
First of all, my Chrome is completely stuck, so I'm guessing you can still hear and see me. And if you do, then I had eye test Pogacar is not looking that good on the climb. And the time gaps confirmed that. So I agree. But also, in the second half of the time trial, did you notice as well that there were a few moments, there was one very specific moment where his back wheel slipped a lot, and he was like, okay, he's looking down to his bike and seeing, like, okay, is something wrong to have a puncture or something? But it happened a few times, right, that his back wheel was slipping?
Yeah, so there's an image at the finish line of Pogacar holding, I think it's Jorgensen's bike, TT bike, lifting it up, like weighing it, and he's not doing it like as a joke. He's actually doing it. I think Pogacar was not confident with his bike today on that descent, and it almost looked like something flew off. I was thinking, in that moment, you said, Benji, has he got a mechanical? Is it a speed wobble? Is it the road surface? But that bike was not, he was not happy with it. Like, he was not able to tuck up in the extensions. Like, Remco on that section he was the arrow bullet.
And like, to me, it's actually quite weird to see Pogacar go to a Cervelo bike or Visma bike and hold it and like, I don't know if it was weighing it. I've only seen the picture, but that's just a very weird sight to see. But
no, he's
on the opposite side, it's a weird look for Colnago, no?
Yeah, he's clearly finished the TT, seen the results and gone, what the fuck?
Yeah, but...
What's their bike weigh? How can this be possible?
But Remco is winning this time trial, not Vingegaard. So to me, at the end, the gap from Remco to Vingegaard is about what I expected. Maybe a little bit less than I expected at the end of this time trial, but it's close to it. So Pogacar is the exception here in this list.
I agree. But Pogacar expects to lose 20 seconds to Remco. That's normal in a flat TT. It happened in the first TT in the Tour de France last year. He does not expect to lose this TT to Jorgensen.
But then he shouldn't look at Cervelo's bike, then he should look at his legs.
Anyway, he thinks the bike made a difference. Because it is very strange to see. It's very strange to see. And I think you might be right, Benji. I mean, I'll do some intermediate time checks in a second, but we may as well close off the Pogacar discussion. How worried should he in UAE be? I don't think very. You've got to remember, this time of the year, right, before the Tour de France, he's normally at Tour of Slovenia playing rock, paper, scissors with Micah for the stage win. Seriously. Yep. Or he's training. He hasn't done the Dauphiné since 2020. He hasn't faced stiff competition in this part of his Tour de France build-up since 2020, which was also the weird COVID year where the calendar was all messed up. So this doesn't mean like maybe he's just underdone. They came later from altitude. And also I think the reason I say it is also because the rest of his team doesn't look sharp. Pollitt can't climb at the moment by his standards. Like Pollitt normally climbs very, very well on the longer climbs. We might see that this weekend, but Sivakov's TT, way worse than I expected. I expected on this course Sivakov top 20, or maybe better, top 15. Maybe I'm overrating it. But I think generally the team just doesn't look that sharp, and I think maybe that's just part of the planned build-up.
It's very possible because is it me or do I remember that we had the same discussion maybe in 2021, 2022 where he came from a Slovenian championships where he did not win? Where I don't know if Trotnik won that Slovenian national championship time trial, and there was a whole discussion after that time trial of like, Pogacar doesn't look that good towards the Tour de France or something. But at the end of the day, he was there at the level he needed to be at the Tour de France. So it's still the Dauphiné, but also it's some indication of what his level is now towards the mountain stage that could come this weekend. Or he had a bad day and he'll be great this weekend. It's all possible. There's only one data point here.
Exactly.
1.5.
Yeah, I would say stage 1 is half a data point, half of one. But he did have to close 1 million attacks and he still won the stage easily. So it's half a data point. But yeah, it's clearly not what they expected. To go to the intermediate time checks to just discuss somewhat the pacing. So yeah, Evenepoel was first to the intermediate check, first to the finish, not surprising. But he was only 11 seconds quicker than Vingegaard to the intermediate, and then, it was evenly paced. Then he was 9 seconds quicker than Vingegaard to the finish, but the finish was only 7 minutes, whereas it was 14 minutes to T1. T1 was slower, 45 kph. T1 to the finish was 59.5 kilometers per hour. It's not surprising that he took relatively more time there because, Vingegaard is lighter and less aero than Remco. So I would say Vingegaard, it looked like he maybe had a mechanical. I don't think he did. There's images that he's in the small chainring, but how can he be doing 58 kph for that last 6 minutes in the small ring? There's no way that gear ratio would work, right?
I would expect so as well. I also noticed him in the flat section to the finish being in the small ring in a space where I didn't necessarily expect that to be the case.
Right.
But I also am not Vingegaard. But didn't he also say after the race or something? I don't know.
He said he ran out of gears. He said he didn't have a mech, but he ran out of gears. He wouldn't have minded a bigger gear to push at a certain point.
Huh?
Maybe he accidentally whacked himself into the small ring for a bit, didn't realize, and then shifted all the way to the bottom of the sprocket. And then was sort of like, oh, that's it. And then just sat on that for a bit. I don't know, but
interesting. Anyway,
like his Vingegaard's T1 to the finish time is somewhat what I would expect. 2 seconds slower than Jorgensen, who's way bigger, pushing way more power than him on a fast section.
I agree. One more thing I do want to add when it comes to Pogacar before we continue the discussion is that there's this tweet up from Break Always on Twitter, and I actually think it's a valuable tweet. He mentioned that I was looking at the time trial and I saw Pogacar taking a drink in this time trial. And usually when it comes to these shorter effort time trials, you would expect the bottle to be in the bike because it's aerodynamically more beneficial to be the case. But in these short time trials, the bottle usually empty, no? So I was kind of surprised, and he as well in the tweet, that Pogacar would be drinking in the first place in a short time trial like this. Or am I underrating that riders now drink in these time trials?
No, it was very strange to see. I mean, you should be pre-hydrated, and then you've got so much time from the TT to then rehydrate afterwards. I'm not a physiologist, but I don't think you can dehydrate. It's not 45 degrees. Like, you're not going to dehydrate enough to impair performance. I don't think in this. It's a 20-minute TT, so, and it's not uphill. Like, you're still getting some cooling. So
maybe it's one. What do you call that? One sip. Sip. That's the word. I was gonna say one glug of water.
He was cooking. I think he was cooked.
He looked cooked at the climb.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And well, the results don't lie either. Eh?
Yeah,
he's not gonna give in 30 seconds for fun. 48.
Yeah, I mean, he's slower than Florian Lipovitz from T1 to the finish all due respect to Florian Lipovic, which probably he wasn't paid enough respect in the break yesterday from actually, like Pogacar mentioned yesterday, it shouldn't have been the big three teams chasing Lipovic. It should have been actually the guys from 4th to 7th hopeful on GC chasing.
From
but
3
maybe,
to 7, I would say.
yeah, so Pogacar then, that's why UAE chased. So
right now, yes.
but yeah, you would expect him to be quicker than Lipovic to the finish. So it's it could have just been also the bike, like those wobbles. I need to go rewatch it. Very, very strange time trial indeed from him. Jorgensen,
but
evenly paced.
I do want to add to the point that you mentioned from yesterday of like Pogacar saying it should have been the 4 to 8 riders in GC teams to pace. I actually am okay with those teams doing it because it's for once that we see those teams, because that is a strategy you do to hope that one of the podium riders spends their team, blows up in the last few mountain stages, and you get a position over them instead. That's kind of the idea you have there. For example, if we saw this on Colle del Finestro, for example, let's say you are second in GC and you've got the first of GC with you, you let the third in GC ride up the road, and then you hope that the first in GC chases that, blows themselves up, so you as a second person in GC can benefit from that. And on one end, you can say, yes, these are the first teams that will be in trouble if Lipovic takes much time. That 4 to 8 person in GC. But on the other end, it's a ploy, it's a method to try and put pressure on the top 3 riders in GC in the first place. So I think I'm okay with either strategy right now.
Movistar are in themselves.
Yep.
Astana were in themselves with Tejada. Ineos were in with Laurence. Half the teams are in that maybe are 4th to 8th hopefuls. And then what? Bahrain is with Santi's about the only one I can point to. Just let it play out. The big teams are going to control it. I think they did nothing wrong. And in the end, yeah, Lipovic did take quite a lot of time, but that's how it is.
But a lot of it is gone already in the time trial for Remco. And I don't expect Lipovic to podium this race. I didn't expect it yesterday, and especially after this time trial.
No, exactly. I'm just looking through the pacing. To be honest, the pacing looks pretty good for everybody. Like it's just normal. It's hard to also say with where the intermediate was placed, but yeah, the fastest guys were also the fastest at both T1 and T1 to the finish. That's normally how time trials work. And let's go to the GC standings, the revised ones now. Remco, 4 seconds ahead of Lipovic, so he does take the yellow jersey from his monster TT. Lipovic did a great time trial. I mean, he couldn't have expected more, but still Remco was too good. Romeo drops to 3rd. He's on 9 seconds. Van der Poel is 4th on 14 seconds. He'll go in the break tomorrow, I dare say, and try and take yellow back. Vingegaard moves up to 5th on 16 seconds behind Remco. Dunbar on 30 seconds and Tejada due to their break time yesterday and a solid enough TT. Pogacar on 38 seconds. Jorgensen's one of the biggest movers. He moves into 9th on 39 seconds, 1 second behind Pog, and 23 behind his teammate Vingegaard. Paul Sechas, he's right up there, 113. If he climbs solidly, he's gonna top 10 this Dauphiné. I mean, top 10 is now what I expect almost for him this Dauphiné at a minimum now. So he set himself up beautifully after this time trial. Santi's on 139, Sheffield 135.
Lenny on 142.
Yeah, that's not good. I actually thought Lenny would do a slightly better TT today. Carlos Rodriguez 139, Tullet 150, Kuss 159, same time Sivakov, Enrique Mas 204, and I guess we'll leave it there for the GC guys.
I think so as well. Like, Ivan Romeo should be happy about having a yellow jersey for a day, winning a stage at the Dauphiné. Yeah, he loses it after a day. I also apologize for joking about his name twice. The man doesn't deserve it after these last 2 stages, to be honest. But I'm extremely curious what he will do in the future. Will he try to go in the breakaway again in the mountains that are upcoming? It's very possible. He might be living on a high in this Dauphiné, so I wouldn't write that out either. Will he try to finish on the top 10, try and stay there until the end of the race from the position he's in from the peloton? That's also a possibility. So he's got a few angles to try in this race. One thing is certain to me: he probably won't get in the breakaway tomorrow, because I don't think he'll be allowed to go in the breakaway so early on in the race again. But right now, if you look specifically at the gaps between the big ones, you said it already, Remco 16 seconds on Vingegaard and 38 seconds on Pogacar. I don't know what to expect in the mountains after this time trial.
Oh, I do.
You do?
Yeah. Remco's going to get mauled.
The thing is, now Pogacar and Vingegaard have to attack to win the race, which will put so much pressure on Remco in this race.
I know.
But it's also a pedestal on which he can prove himself for this race.
you got to do it. At some point, if you want to win the Tour de France, you also have to climb as well as these two. So it's a good challenge, and it's time to make it happen.
I don't expect him to compete with Pogacar and Vingegaard at the Tour de France yet at the moment. That's my personal opinion now. But I want to see how close he can get. Whether he can close a bit of the gap that was existent last year. Because last year he still finished on quite a few minutes at the end of the Tour de France. And I want to see how close he can get at this Tour de France and whether he can do another consistent Tour de France the entire race through. Because that was what Remco relatively did last year. When it comes to Vingegaard and Pogacar, this time trial doesn't necessarily move me completely for the Tour de France. I do think this Dauphiné as a whole gives me more confidence in Vingegaard than I had before the Dauphiné started, which that's an obvious one. That was also after stage 1 already. Seeing that spiciness, that attack, that gave me some boost of like, okay. It made me think, okay, the concussion Danish rider we had after Paris-Nice, he's not washed. He's here and he's ready to play. And I obviously love seeing that because everyone watching this podcast knows that I don't care who wins as long as the race is close. So as long as the race is close in week 3, I'm all Gucci. So these three riders better be close in shape to each other by the Tour de France.
Yeah, I think you're right, Benji. We always knew Vingegaard can do a good TT. He did his best performance before this Dauphiné this year was the Algarve TT, which was a hit with a hilly finish. He smoked it. What we didn't see was what we saw on stage 1 of this Dauphiné. And so that was almost arguably more important than a good TT.
We have seen, as a whole, the TT sphere shifting a little bit, where last year, UAE was the forefront when it comes to TT bikes, or the year and a half before this year. And I feel like the gap has not only closed, we're seeing other teams that, in my opinion, our TT was performing better than UAE at the moment, as a whole.
Arkea. I mean, I don't know if it's... No, seriously, the Gernelec brothers and Vauquelin come to every TT and they smoke it. So, but they also probably are good time trial riders. But indeed, like, Decathlon got a good setup. I mean, look at Armirel and Sechas time, and even FDJ, that Cavagna time's actually very, very good. So, what does this mean for
the... must be pretty good if Pogacar wants to have an on-video picture with it.
Well, you think it's a message he's saying to the team there?
Nah, I don't want to overread it either. It's a snippet.
Oh, come on, we said it's overreaction.
Okay, overreaction. He's going to steal Vingegaard's bike, sabotage it, and bring it back before the Tour de France.
Yeah, okay.
You said overreaction, okay?
Yeah. Everyone's at the same... I mean, it'd be easy to steal stuff. Everyone does the same altitude training literally a meter from each other the whole year.
That's not true. Overreaction time is Pogacar's shape because he skipped 1 day of his training camp to go to the Monaco Grand Prix.
Low key, yes. Like, maybe. I don't know, Benji.
Visma is so happy that Jonas is not an F1 fan.
Yeah. Dude, that's one problem Visma doesn't have is, keeping Jonas away from, like, going to Ibiza mid-altitude camp or the Monaco Grand Prix. So, dude, if I was at altitude, I would have said, I'm out. I'm not doing the Dauphiné. I'll do Tour de Suisse, and I'm going to I have to watch the World Test Championship at Lords, and I'm sitting in the members. And there's no way you can stop me. I'll drink Pims, I'll eat strawberries, and I'm going to lose in Swiss. I'm uncoachable.
Who?
I'm uncoachable. Don't worry, Benji. It's cricket.
The World when?
World Test Championships at Lords. It's in London.
Australia's not winning that, buddy. South Africa's taking that. I can feel it. Go South Africa.
Bowling all right. They got lucky dismissal early this morning. Do you want to go to tomorrow's... Actually, finishing off Remco, do you actually think Remco is going to win this Dauphiné?
No. I hope he does for the sake of the Tour de France.
That would be great. What do you think now? You think now that would be crazy good. Do you think he just has to do a bit too much in the mountains? Valentin Paris-Pancher tries his best, but otherwise he gets rolled by Visma or Pog.
I would expect that. I think Remco can... Right now, I'd say Remco likely podiums this based on his shape. Yeah. I'd say second is even possible. It would have to have... Something would have to happen to Vingegaard Pogacar. Pogacar's shape in the mountains would have to be the same as in the time trial. But it's not impossible. But I reckon he gets attacked like crazy in the mountains by not just Visma, but also UAE to try and take time on each other. And in doing so, Remco also being taken time upon. And then it's all about how good is his shape at the moment and how good is his shape compared to Vingegaard and Pogacar. Those mountains won't lie on Saturday. Like,
it's hard.
Madeleine, Croix de Fer, Valmenier, 65 kilometers of climbing throughout the stage. So the terrain won't lie.
Okay, tomorrow's stage, I think we do have a bit of a pause in proceedings between the GC men, although you never know. 183 kilometers from Saint-Priest to Macon. Masson? Yeah.
Macron.
Maybe. It is a little bit hilly, but mostly flat for the first 90 kilometers. And then medium mountains. This, to me, is absolutely nailed on breakaway unless Trek pull a miracle out for Milan. We have 3 category 3s. They're about 6.7Ks, 5%, 5Ks, 5%, and the Hill of the Four Winds, which is another 5.5Ks at 4.6%. The last 2Ks is 6%. That crest, about 28 kilometers from the finish. There's some hills there. I think the way Milan has been climbing, I just don't see it. I just don't see it that maybe they get him over, but that won't be fast enough to control a break. So, and so many teams want to go in. Van der Poel.
Ben Healy.
He's got to be saving for something.
He was literally dropping on purpose at the end of stage 1 or 2, just before the finish to lose time. Ben Healy.
Picking Healy, I'm picking Van der Poel. I think he gets it right. I think Van der Poel.
The gradients are also not too insane, so it's possible.
Yeah, he's climbing. Van der Poel, by the way, is airborne. Van der Poel is flying. I've never seen him in shape in June like this before. Normally does Bauhaus Belgium tour or something. Because he made he made that break yesterday, Benji, with GC riders like Romeo attacking after a 6K 7% climb, and he was attacking to get in the break, and he made it. And he was isolated and pulling the hardest in the break. He is in really good shape, and the TT today also shows it. So I'm going MVDP, and he's going to take yellow back. Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Very possible. Would be good.
GC-wise, I don't see much happening.
Okay. Eddie Dunbar's time trial was pretty solid as well today, right?
Yeah, Dunbar was in good shape.
Cool.
Yep.
Someone has to support your nation.
Exactly. So good on him, and I hope that he gets good Porrick.
Porridge.
Exactly. Oh, wow. Yep. Exactly. Close enough. That's probably what it sounded like to you when we first started the podcast, when I was trying to be like, caramel milk bake street in the Tour of Flanders. Now I'm like, in E3 Harelbeke, Greg van Avermaet is the East Arena in the top the van Kemmelberg. Now I'm flying. Exactly. He's looking at me like I looked at you. All right, I think that's a good time to end it. It was a great TT stage, and let's see if Poggy can bounce back on the weekend. Certainly would make for some exciting racing if indeed that does happen. Hope you enjoyed it. See you then. Ciao, ciao.